Hey guys, Rod here at A Better Way to Farm, coming at you live. Better Way to Farm, where we spend every day working to make your life better. We appreciate you guys tuning in. It's awesome that you take part, and we've had a chance to talk to several of you who've contacted us off of the Facebook page. Also, several who've been listening to the podcast. And we appreciate you guys being a part of the community. And if this brings value to you, share this with a friend, or tune into the podcast and give it a rating and share that with a friend. Today we titled this, Watch This If You're Not Done Planting Corn. Now I realize that it's late May. I know that it's getting late in a lot of the world. We're here in southern Iowa, that's where our farm is located, and we know we've been giving up so much of our yield every day now for probably over a month. And we know that we're doing that. We also know, though, that right now, for the first time in a while, it looks like we could start to sell some $4 December corn, and that is a good thing. And I think that some of the guys are probably, the ones I'm talking to, are still saying sometime there, June 5, June 8, they're going to keep planting corn, and then they're going to switch over to beans. So it is getting late. We're trying to figure out what to do. And today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about ignoring conventional wisdom. One of the things that you hear me talk about is a phrase that I'm not real fond of, is the phrase, everybody knows. Like everybody knows the world is flat. That's what they knew in 1491. And then in 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed off of the edge of the world, if you will, and actually came to the New Americas. So, what conventional wisdom was, what everybody knew, wasn't true. So what does conventional wisdom say right now? What does everybody know? Well, everybody knows that when you do get to plant here sometime next week, that it's going to be warmer. And that's a fact. It should be warmer. The soil temperature should be up. And therefore, everybody knows that you don't need a seed emergence aid. Well, let me fly in the face of conventional wisdom and ask you this question. Let's pretend that you don't plant your corn till June 4th. What's it going to be worth in October to have corn that's 2 or 3% drier? What would the value be if we could show you how to have that corn be 2 or 3 points drier in October than where you didn't use the seed emergence aid? Because that's what our seed emergence aid typically does. On the front end, early planting, April, early May, it gets you about 1,700 plants more per acre. It gets a more even emergence, and it'll still do that. It'll still get them up out of the ground at a same time frame. And the shorter we get that window of emergence, the better off we are. But maybe it won't get you 1,700 extra plants because it's late and it's warmer, but it will get you drier corn. The bottom line is, in the fall, it's going to be 2 to 3 points drier. That is a typical response that we see. So even if the yield increase is 0, what's the value of 3% drier corn? Because that, in essence, is one of the things that you can pick up as 2 or 3 points just by using a seed emergence aid that costs you factory direct pricing, $2.50 an acre or less. And here's the deal. If you'll get a hold of us, we can get that shipped out tomorrow. We can get that sent to you so that you can have the opportunity to take advantage of this. I don't know what it's like where you're at. We had a guy today came, he tried to mow the yard and was like, I'm going to get stuck, I'm not doing that. And he loaded up his mower and he left because it's so squishy here. We know we're not planting anytime in the next 4 or 5 days. Of course, we do have that additional rain in the forecast, which is going to help out to pack down the mud. So we're counting on that to be a big value. Maybe you've got the same deal. So let's talk about why would we do that. That's the bottom line. Excuse me. Is the seed emergence aid will help us with drier corn. What's another thing that everybody knows? As it gets late, everybody knows there's no reason to use starter. Let's talk about that. Why would we want to use a good high quality starter? Well, first of all, maybe it is warm enough and we're getting some of the phosphorus and some of the potassium to let go in the soil and we're getting it there. But guys, we need to push this crop as fast as we can. And a good high quality starter with phosphorus and with good potassium will shove into that plant and get it going faster. It also makes for a healthier plant. So here's my question to you. Which corn crop gets dry faster? A corn crop that we call, you got two choices here, guys. Basically, you're going after one of two things. You're going after die down or you're going after dry down. Now, die down works. If we get into October and we get those hot days and it gets up into the 80s and the wind's blowing 25 miles an hour and the corn plant's deader than a hammer, and Mother Nature will draw that moisture out of those kernels. But a better choice is not die down, it's what we call dry down. We get into October, that corn plant's still green as a gourd, but it starts to pull the moisture out of the grain and it actually works with you to help. Now I say that because here's some things to think about. We don't sell fungicide, but this might be a year to think about it. If we can do everything in our power to keep that plant healthier, maybe a fungicide is something that we should take a look at. Maybe it's something that would help us. Maybe it's something that will keep that plant green longer so it can actually pull moisture from the kernels and translocate it back to the roots. Karen is going to post a picture here in a little bit of some corn that was pulled out of the field at our friend Jerry's place, testing about 20%, making 330 bushel, and the corn's just green as a gourd. It looks like silage, but it was testing 20%. Because the secret to getting this corn to dry the way we want it is it has to dry down, not die down. So we want that plant to live as longer, to be as physiologically mature, but still alive as long as humanly possible. It's kind of funny because only in the crops that we grow do we find that the plant actually dies before the seed is ready. You look at all of the weeds that are out here. I look at all of the grass that I'm staring out of here, or hay that's going to have to be made, looking out my window, and I'm looking at stuff that's going to get physiological mature. Excuse me. The seed is going to be ready to go and completely ready to harvest for seed, and the plant's going to be completely green. Weeds, in the same way in the fall, the weeds are always completely mature before they die, barring we kill them with chemical or frost. So our goal is that barring a frost, your corn plant stays green. Because when it stays green, it helps to dry the grain. What are some other things that we could do that we could take a look at to improve that plant health and help with that dry down? Well, number one, I would definitely be taking a look at sugar. Anytime you're out there, you could put a pint. We have a sugar product. It's liquid. It mixes easy. It costs you about, less than $1.50 an acre. You go out there and you apply that in your starter with your first spray, with your second spray, with a foliar mix, whatever, because it helps with plant health. And it helps keep that plant green, and it's going to help that plant dry down. So let's talk about something else that everybody knows. What's conventional wisdom say? Well, everybody knows this is the year we're going to draw it back. We're not going to do any foliar feeding. And there may be some places for that. We don't want to try and foliar feed our worst 50%. We want to try and work and push our best 50%. But in addition to pushing for more yield, that foliar feeding helps, it gets that extra yield by making the plant healthier. A healthier plant is going to dry down faster. So this might be a year to seriously look at foliar feeding even when we hadn't done it in the past. And we'll try and drop some information here. We'll do some other lives. Karen's going to instruct me on what to do. You can look for a podcast on foliar feeding and some things that we can talk about, because this might be the year for you to give it your first go. Because the bottom line is, guys, we're in a different environment here. There is no question. We know that. And so we've got to capture all the sunlight we can. We got to get that plant as healthy as possible. We've got to do everything in our power to give that plant every advantage that we can. So let's summarize. What's the first thing we can do? A seed emergence aid. What's the second thing we should do? Row place starter of the highest quality with the appropriate micronutrients. What's the third thing we should do? Should be some sugar in with that row place starter. And then when we're broadcasting our pre and post emerge, when we broadcast our post emerge chemicals, we should put some more sugar in there. We might put that in up as many as 3 or 4 trips this year. Why? Because for $6 an acre, we don't have to get much back, and it's going to help with plant health. And then we might take a look at some foliar feeding. Guys, I know that it's easy to be frustrated. I know that it's easy to just be really pulling your hair out. But I also know that we are looking at the chance to sell some $4 corn. So let's figure out how to grow as much of it as we can. Let's figure out how to get it as dry as possible so that when fall rolls around, we're ready to rock and roll. Because we know that we're gonna farm this year and we're gonna farm next year. Why? Because that's what we do. Guys, thank you for tuning into this. I hope this finds you doing great, and I hope that you're having a better day.